Welcome, everyone. Today, we're exploring one of the most transformative teachings in Buddhism, emptiness. But don't let the word mislead you. This isn't about nihilism or meaninglessness. In fact, it's the opposite. Understanding emptiness brings the kind of clarity that can dissolve suffering and open the door to genuine happiness. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt that something was missing? You achieve your goals, accumulate wealth, surround yourself with people you love, yet, deep down, there's this nagging feeling that it's not enough. It's as if you're constantly chasing something just out of reach. If you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. This feeling has haunted humanity for centuries. But what if I told you that the real problem isn't what we lack, but how we see the world? What if our suffering doesn't come from external circumstances, but from the way our minds grasp, label, and attach to things? Buddha once said, "In what is seen, there is only the seen. In what is heard, there is only the heard." At first glance, this might sound poetic, maybe even simple, but this is actually a profound invitation, an invitation to experience reality without the heavy filters of judgment, attachment, and illusion. From the moment we wake up, our minds are busy labeling everything. This is good. This is bad. I need this. I don't want that. But Buddhism teaches us something revolutionary. These labels aren't reality. They're projections. And our suffering arises from believing in these projections as if they were absolute truths. Let's take an example. Imagine holding a cup of tea. You might think, "This is my favorite tea. It makes me happy." But what happens if the cup breaks? What happens if someone says the tea is terrible? The happiness you felt wasn't in the tea itself. It was in your mind's attachment to the idea of the tea. This is where emptiness comes in. It doesn't mean things don't exist. It means things don't exist in the way we imagine. Everything we experience is interconnected, ever-changing, and dependent on countless conditions. When we deeply realize this, we stop clinging. We stop being trapped by rigid ideas of good and bad, success and failure, me and you. So how does this change your life? Imagine walking through your day without taking everything so personally. Imagine feeling emotions, but not being controlled by them. Imagine loving fully, but without fear of losing. When we embrace emptiness, we're not losing life's meaning. We're finally free to experience it fully. So here's my challenge to you. For just one day, try to observe your thoughts without getting attached to them. Notice how often your mind tries to categorize, judge, or cling to things. And in those moments, remind yourself, this is just a thought, not reality. Embracing emptiness isn't about detachment. It's about seeing with clarity, living with wisdom, and loving with freedom. Are you ready to experience reality differently? Let's begin this journey together. So what does emptiness really mean? Let's start by clearing up a huge misunderstanding. Emptiness does not mean nothingness. It doesn't mean that life is meaningless or that nothing exists. In fact, the realization of emptiness brings more meaning, more depth, and more freedom than we could ever imagine. In Buddhism, emptiness, or Śūnyatā, refers to the idea that nothing has an independent, fixed existence. Everything is interconnected, everything arises due to conditions, and everything is constantly changing. Think of a wave in the ocean. Can you separate the wave from the water? Where does the wave begin, and where does the ocean end? The wave only exists because of the ocean. It takes shape because of the wind, the currents, and even the gravitational pull of the moon. If any of those conditions change, the wave changes too. The same is true for everything in life. You, me, our emotions, our thoughts, our identities. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything we experience is shaped by a web of causes and conditions. But here's where the suffering begins. We don't see the world this way. We believe things are fixed. We believe our problems, our pain, and even our sense of self are solid and unchanging. We cling to labels like good and bad, success and failure, mine and yours. We believe that if we just control enough, own enough, or hold on tightly enough, we can make things last forever. But life doesn't work that way. The things we try so hard to grasp slip through our fingers because everything is fluid, impermanent, and dependent on countless conditions beyond our control. And when we fight against this reality, we suffer. Buddhism teaches that emptiness is not a void, it is freedom. When we stop seeing life through the lens of attachment and expectation, we stop grasping at things that were never truly solid to begin with. This doesn't mean we stop loving, feeling, or experiencing life. It means we do so without fear, without the constant anxiety of loss, without the illusion of control. Imagine what it would feel like to experience your emotions, but not be controlled by them, to enjoy life's beauty, but not be devastated when it changes, to love fully, but without attachment or possessiveness. This is the gift of emptiness. So how do we start applying this in our daily lives? Begin by noticing the impermanence of things. Watch how thoughts come and go. See how emotions rise and fade. Observe how everything you call me is in constant motion, your body, your mind, even your sense of identity. When you start to see that everything is in a state of flow, you stop clinging so tightly, and in that space, there is peace. Emptiness is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. It is the key to true freedom, to a life without unnecessary suffering, and to a deeper connection with reality itself. Are you ready to see the world differently? Let's continue this journey together. All right, let's take this a step further. If everything is empty of inherent existence, what about you? Who are you really? Most of us carry a strong sense of self. We say things like, "This is who I am," "This is my personality," or "I've always been this way." We hold on to our identity as if it was something solid, something permanent. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, where is this self that you're so sure of? If you look closely, you'll realize that your sense of self is just a collection, a bundle of thoughts, emotions, memories, beliefs, and physical sensations. But can you point to any one of those things and say, "This is me"? If you lost a memory, would you still be you? If your opinions changed, would you still be you? If your body aged, would you still be you? The Buddha once used a powerful analogy to explain this. He compared a person to a chariot. If you take apart the wheels, the axle, the seat, and all the other pieces, where is the chariot? It was never a single solid thing. It was just a label we placed on a collection of parts. The same applies to you. There is no fixed, unchanging self that exists independently. Instead, you are a process, a constantly shifting flow of experiences shaped by causes and conditions. Now, I know, this might sound unsettling at first. We've spent our whole lives believing we are something solid, something separate. The idea that the self is empty might feel like losing something, but in reality, this is the most freeing realization of all. Think about it. If your sense of self isn't fixed, it means you are not bound by your past. You are not the mistakes you've made. You are not the stories you've been told about yourself. You are not the labels society has given you. You are not even the thoughts running through your mind right now. You are free, free to grow, free to change, free to let go of the things that no longer serve you. This realization also transforms the way we see others. If we understand that people, just like us, are not fixed, unchanging beings, we become more compassionate. We stop holding on to old grudges. We stop defining people by their worst moments. We stop expecting them to be the same forever. The truth is, every moment you are becoming something new, just like a river that never stays the same, just like a flame that is constantly flickering. You are not a thing. You are a movement. And in that movement, there is limitless possibility. So take a moment to reflect. What would it feel like to stop clinging to an old version of yourself? To embrace the fact that you are not a fixed identity, but an unfolding experience. This is not something to fear. This is liberation. And this is just the beginning of understanding who you truly are. Emptiness isn't just about the self. It applies to everything. This is where one of the most profound teachings in Buddhism comes in: dependent origination. Simply put, nothing exists independently. Everything we see, everything we experience, arises because of countless causes and conditions. Let's take something simple: a tree. It looks solid, real, and independent. But is it? That tree only exists because of the sunlight that nourished it, the rain that watered it, the soil that held it, and the air that allowed it to breathe. Without any one of these elements, the tree could not exist. And even those elements are dependent on something else. The rain comes from clouds. The clouds form from evaporated water. The sun exists because of cosmic forces billions of years old. Everything is part of a vast, interconnected web. Now let's take something even more personal: your morning cup of coffee. Where did that coffee come from? The beans were grown by farmers in a distant country. They were harvested, dried, processed, packaged, and transported across the world. Someone roasted them, someone ground them, someone brewed them. The water in your coffee traveled through pipes, reservoirs, and purification systems. The cup you hold was manufactured, designed, and delivered by hands you'll never meet. Your simple morning ritual is the result of thousands of people, natural forces, and historical events all aligning. And this isn't just about trees or coffee. It's about you, me, and everything we experience. Your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. Where do they come from? They are shaped by your upbringing, your environment, your interactions with others. Even the language you think in was passed down through generations. There is no separate, isolated you existing apart from the world. You are a continuation of everything that came before you. When we see this truth, life changes. We begin to appreciate the vast web of connections that sustain us. Gratitude naturally arises, not just for the obvious things, but for everything. For the people we never see, for the moments we take for granted, for the sheer miracle of existence itself, and more importantly, we start to let go. When we understand that everything depends on something else, we stop clinging to the illusion of control. We stop expecting things to be permanent. We stop grasping at what we love and resisting what we dislike. We flow with life instead of fighting against it. Imagine walking through your day with this awareness. Imagine seeing a simple object, a chair, a book, a meal, and recognizing the infinite conditions that brought it into being. Imagine looking at a stranger and understanding that their life, just like yours, is shaped by forces beyond imagination. With this understanding, how could we ever feel truly separate? How could we hold on to anger, resentment, or greed, knowing that we are all interconnected? Dependent origination teaches us that nothing is truly ours. Nothing stands alone. Everything exists in relationship. And when we embrace this, we stop living in resistance and start living in harmony. So, the next time you drink your coffee, take a moment. Look at it. See the universe in that cup. See the connections, the unseen hands, the countless conditions that made this moment possible. And in that simple act of awareness, you'll begin to touch the depth of reality itself. When we talk about understanding life, about truly grasping its nature, we're not just talking about intellectual knowledge. We're talking about something deeper, an experience that goes beyond words. And one of the most powerful ways to touch this understanding is through meditation. When we sit in stillness, just observing, something remarkable happens. We begin to see our thoughts as they truly are, impermanent, fleeting, like ripples on water or clouds drifting through the sky. One moment, a thought appears. The next, it's gone. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, where did this thought come from? And where does it go? Try this simple practice. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and just watch. Don't judge, don't resist. Simply notice. A thought arises. Maybe it's about something that happened yesterday or a worry about tomorrow. Watch it come, and then, just like that, it dissolves. You don't have to push it away. It leaves on its own. This is the nature of the mind. No thought lasts forever. And when we truly see this, something shifts. We begin to understand, in a very real way, that nothing is fixed, not our thoughts, not our emotions, not even our sense of self. We realize that clinging to any of it is like trying to hold on to mist. Another powerful practice is contemplating impermanence. Look at your own body. Every cell is in a state of change. Right now, billions of cells are dying and being replaced. The body you had 10 years ago? It no longer exists. The world around us is the same. Seasons change, people come and go, even mountains erode over time. Everything is in motion, nothing stays still. And yet, we spend so much of our lives resisting this truth. We cling to identities, to beliefs, to expectations of how life should be. We grasp at moments, trying to make them last forever. But suffering arises when we refuse to accept the natural flow of life. The Buddha taught that liberation comes not from controlling life, but from seeing it clearly, from understanding that change is not our enemy, it is the very nature of existence. When we accept this, a deep sense of peace emerges. We no longer struggle against reality, we move with it. So, I invite you, take a moment today. Sit in silence, observe your thoughts, contemplate impermanence, and notice what shifts within you. The more we align with reality as it is, the more we find freedom, not somewhere far away, but right here, in this very moment. What happens when you truly embrace emptiness? You let go, and in that letting go, something remarkable happens. You find freedom. Much of our suffering doesn't come from life itself, but from the way we hold on to it. We cling to people, to things, to ideas of who we think we are. We hold on to relationships fearing they will change. We hold on to possessions as if they define us. We hold on to beliefs, afraid of uncertainty. But what happens when we recognize the truth? That everything is impermanent, that nothing exists independently, that nothing can truly be possessed. We stop gripping so tightly, and in that release, we breathe. This doesn't mean we stop loving or stop caring. In fact, it's the opposite. We begin to love in a way that is purer, freer. We love not because we need something in return, but because love itself is an expression of our deepest nature. We care not out of attachment, but out of genuine compassion. Imagine holding sand in your hand. If you squeeze it, trying to keep it, it slips through your fingers. But if you open your palm, the sand remains. This is the way of life. The more we try to control, the more we suffer. The more we allow things to flow, the more we experience peace. And this is the great paradox. By embracing emptiness, we discover fullness. By realizing that nothing can be held onto, we are free to experience everything completely. We stop being afraid of loss because we see that loss is simply change. We stop resisting life because we understand that life is not meant to be grasped, it's meant to be lived. The Buddha taught that clinging is the root of suffering, but he also taught that liberation is possible. And this liberation doesn't come from escaping the world, but from seeing it clearly, from being fully present with each moment, knowing that it will pass, from loving deeply, knowing that love itself is never lost. So today, take a moment to reflect. What are you holding on to? A grudge? A fear? A version of yourself that no longer exists? What would happen if, just for a moment, you let it go? You might just find that in releasing, you are lighter, that in surrendering, you are free, and in embracing emptiness, you experience the deepest joy, the joy of simply being. How do we take this wisdom off the meditation cushion and into our daily lives? The answer is simple, yet profound. We start seeing things as they are. Meditation isn't just about sitting in silence. It's about training ourselves to wake up, to see reality clearly, and to carry that awareness into every moment of our lives. Because the truth is, life doesn't happen on a cushion. It happens in conversations, in conflicts, in quiet moments of self-doubt. It happens when we're stuck in traffic, when we're dealing with a difficult person, when things don't go as planned. So how do we bring this wisdom into those moments? We start by pausing. When something triggers frustration or anger, instead of reacting instantly, we take a breath. We step back and look deeper. What is really happening here? Is it the situation itself causing our suffering? Or is it our resistance to it? Maybe someone speaks to us harshly. Instinctively, we feel hurt. Maybe even defensive. But what if, instead of taking it personally, we recognize that this person, like us, is shaped by their own experiences, their own struggles, their own wounds? What if their words aren't really about us at all? In that moment, we create space. Space for compassion, space for understanding, space for a different kind of response. This is how wisdom moves from theory to practice. We stop living on autopilot. We stop getting caught in every emotional storm. Instead, we become the observer, the one who sees the waves but is not controlled by them. And what about when we feel lost? When life becomes uncertain? When things we once relied on begin to slip away? Our instinct is to grasp, to search for something solid. But what if, instead of clinging, we allowed ourselves to flow? Look at a river. It doesn't resist the rocks in its path. It moves around them. It doesn't stop when the terrain changes. It adapts. And yet, it never loses itself. This is the way of life. Change is not the enemy. Our resistance to it is. When we stop demanding that life be a certain way, we begin to experience the beauty of how it actually is. Every moment, no matter how challenging, becomes an opportunity to wake up, to practice, to deepen our understanding. So today, as you move through your day, notice how you react. Notice where you cling, where you resist. And then ask yourself, what would happen if I let go? Just a little. What would happen if I stopped fighting the current and simply allowed myself to be here, fully, as I am? This is how wisdom transforms our lives, not in some distant future, not in some perfect moment, but right now. At the heart of Buddhism, the understanding of emptiness is not just about reducing suffering, it's about liberation. True freedom is not found in control, nor in grasping at certainty, but in letting go of the illusions that bind us. We spend so much of our lives trying to define ourselves. We cling to identities, beliefs, and experiences as if they are solid, as if they will last forever. But nothing in this world is fixed. Who you were 10 years ago is not who you are today. Your thoughts, emotions, even the cells in your body are in constant transformation. And yet, we struggle. We hold on to roles, to stories about ourselves, to ideas of who we think we should be. But what happens when we loosen our grip? When we stop clinging to fixed identities, when we stop needing life to fit into neat little boxes, we step into something much greater. Openness, spaciousness, a sense of ease that is not dependent on circumstances. This is not an escape from life. This is life as it truly is. This is the difference between seeing the world through a keyhole and stepping outside into the vast open sky. The Buddha said, "The wise one, meditative and resolute, sees the way to freedom and walks it with joy." This path is not about renouncing life, but about engaging with it fully, without fear, without attachment, with a heart that is open and a mind that is free. So my question to you is this: are you ready? Are you ready to see reality as it is, not as you wish it to be? Are you ready to release the weight of the self-imposed expectations that hold you back? Because when we truly understand emptiness, we don't lose anything. Instead, we gain everything. Take a moment, reflect. What does emptiness mean to you? How does it show up in your life? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this message resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep awakening. See you soon.